Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 21. In today's video, we won't really have a main focus. We will just do whatever comes up, and whatever takes my fancy at the moment. I suppose there are two big things that will happen. One is of course the purchase and utilization of a pair of EDK 300 track layers, which will undoubtedly speed up the overall railroad construction speeds. Unless we run out of gravel, which we will most definitely do today. Mostly thanks to the fact that we will also get started on a small town expansion, in the form of a small cluster of apartment blocks along the smaller river, where we stopped building embankments in the last episode. And building all those footpaths will require a lot of gravel, so you have that to look forward to. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. We have quite a bit of traffic at the border. To speed things up a bit, I changed these intersection signs around, but later we will discover that they were fine the way they were. I suppose we could leave the big customs house to be used by the tanker trucks exclusively, and redirect everyone else to the smaller one. It has been pointed out that the small crossing is in fact faster than the big one, since vehicles need to travel shorter distances while inside the building, which is a pretty big boost to the rate of turnovers. Next, we should tell the distribution office responsible for filling up the construction storages to use the newly built recycling facilities. We already have some steel available at the plant, so if we have room, we should take those out. Okay, we absolutely need to add a no overtake sign at this border crossing too. Unfortunately, I did this just barely too late, and we already had a truck blocking the way out of the customs house. I will discover this a bit later, and we'll have to sacrifice a grain delivery truck to get things unstuck. Also, we will get quite close to making 1,000,000 rubles today, but the purchase of the new track layers will prevent us from repaying one of the big loans. Oh well, there's always next time. Now, we absolutely need to give these embankment pieces a way to reach the construction offices for maintenance. So it's time to place down a permanent set of footpaths, instead of that jumbled mess we used for the construction phase. Okay, now that the pieces are all built completely, let's try to only connect one of their footpath points, so things aren't too messy. After double checking that all of them have access to the footpaths, we can start upgrading them. I also gave in to my compulsions, and still added some extra connections wherever they could be done with a relatively acceptable angle. And once I was happy with the overall picture, we could start upgrading them fully for that pleasing shoreside promenade look. For now, I didn't add a secondary construction footpath, but later I will add one, just to make this quick. And this is where I discovered that I added that no overtake sign too late. That white refrigerated truck is blocking the way out of the border crossing, so we need to do something about this, and quick. First, I tried to make some of the trucks turn around, hoping they would do so, and cause others to start moving. I even tried to send one of them to the depot, but that also didn't help. In the end, I had to sell the one trying to leave, so that pesky one blocking the way could go in and clear the way. Now that it started flowing again, things should be okay from now on. With the sign in place, vehicles will no longer try to overtake each other, and cause another deadlock. I still spent a couple seconds making sure nobody attempted to jump the queue, and once I was happy that they all obeyed the sign, I moved on. And this is where I ultimately put the signs back to the way they were at the silo. As trucks try to enter the silo, they need to make a left turn, so the trucks coming in from the left are the potential causes of traffic conflicts, so they need to wait. Might as well do the same at the exit too. They can merge into the outer lane when there's room, but the vehicles coming from the left should allow them to exit unimpeded. The only non-tanker trucks still using the bigger crossing are all coming from distribution offices. We should change those too, so we split the load as evenly as possible. The big one is still a bit too overloaded. I really didn't want to build anything big next to the palace, that would kind of ruin the place. But, we should have enough room where we stopped building the embankments. If we add a couple more, we should have a nice strip of land to build on. Let's see what we build here. Something that we can fit into the area, preferably at a different angle than the rest of the nearby buildings. This one is just barely too wide to fit at a 45-degree angle. This one, however, this one fits. And it can hold a lot of people. This might even be too big for the nearby services to handle, so we will need to be careful how fast we build these. How about we place 4 in a neat row? I definitely didn't want to connect them to the footpath network yet. I wanted to make sure the services can handle the sudden rush of demand. But we could add some extra ones to speed up the coastal footpaths. Nice, only one rail segment left to be built before we reach the customs house. Won't be long before we can buy ourselves some better track layers. At this point, I was getting a bit fed up with all the complaints coming in from students at the dormitory. I already knew that the game won't allow me, but I still tried to demolish it, just in case. Later on, I will just increase the loyalty requirement to 100%, and wait for it to be cleared out, and then we will get rid of it. Next, since we have the embankments planned out further up the river, we can push back the coast at this point. This did end up creating a pretty big pond in the middle of the river. Let's straighten it out, so it doesn't look too unnatural. Still needs some work, but I don't know how things will develop later, so I will leave it as is. To prepare for the new track layers, I made sure all of the rail segments are unpaused, so we don't end up missing one that I accidentally put on hold at some point in the past. Since these new houses were not yet connected to the rest of the network, I couldn't tell what kinds of services they were lacking. So, instead of trying to figure it out, I just decided to build everything in the local area. That should be enough for now. Everything else important are in range already. We might need another shopping center nearby, in case the Ukrainian one gets overcrowded, but other than that, we are pretty much set. And would you look at that? We only need a tiny bit of work on the tracks, and we are connected. Let's follow the track layer on this one last push. The rails are a bit bumpy, but I am not going to rebuild them at this point, obviously. We can redo the vaccine research again. I guess we had an epidemic recently. Also, we could do the population boosting study again too, but we have unhoused adults already, so we really don't need more babies right now. And the RCO is now officially connected to the border crossing. Time to buy the new track layers. Finally, these beasts will make short work of the remaining parts of the rail construction. And the red one is already off to work. And here comes Bluey too. Until they can spread out, they will require a bit of supervision, since they will get into collisions very easily. Well, let's just leave them to it, I guess. We will just need to check on them from time to time, and sort out any collisions they might get into. And here we have a bit of a deadlock. This really shouldn't happen with the signs we have at the roundabout. Thankfully it's an easy fix, only needed to send one of them home. I still kept an eye on it for a little bit, just to make sure things got going properly. And here, I set the loyalty requirement for the student housing to 100%. Let's hope that it will get emptied out over time, and we can demolish it. They have everything they need, all completely satisfied, but they are super unhappy for some reason. Time to vacate them. Here, I think we should give priority to the vehicles coming in from the two busiest directions. This is a place where we definitely have no place to make a roundabout. Let's try to push past this first couple rail segments as fast as possible, so we can let the track layers spread out a bit more on the network, reducing the possibility of them getting into conflicts. And before you ask, placing signals now is definitely not the solution. It would just end up causing pathing issues. We will only place signals once everything's done. Anyways, I did notice the lack of gravel in the RCO, so I told the distribution office responsible to fill it up to 90%. Should allow bigger spurts of construction once things settle down. Also, you might have noticed that I didn't sell the old track layer. If you've seen the previous series, you already know why that is. As soon as these footpaths are taken care of, we should have more gravel make its way to the RCO, so we can speed up the rail construction efforts. I even considered building a domestic gravel production chain somewhere nearby. But the closest place where we could build a quarry was near the border. I really didn't want to ferry workers all the way out there, so I abandoned it for now. It does look like a great place for a quarry though. I still might build one. The processing plant only needs about a dozen workers to operate. If we build a really big storage for the finished gravel, then it won't really matter if the actual production is a bit hit and miss. Well, since we have those new track layers, we should start thinking about distribution. I didn't download the usual offices yet, so we will just place the vanilla ones for now. I couldn't really find any better place for them other than here. Everywhere else was either too built up, or existing junctions made it impossible to use those areas. As usual, we will build at least 2 offices. One will be used for internal distribution, moving stuff from point to point. The other one will be used for exporting things. This is necessary to set different thresholds for different purposes. We can safely let a storage run dry if the destination is somewhere inside the Republic, but when it comes to exports, I would like to keep some of the materials ready for domestic use, so that office will have to wait until the storages reach a certain level of fullness before sending a train out. Wait a second. Let's place the rail tracks first, and place the road second. If we did it the other way around, we wouldn't be able to fit in the tracks. I have a strong feeling that we will keep tinkering with these tracks in the near future, so I didn't really bother to come up with a final setup yet. I would like to make sure that both offices can come and go in either direction on the main line, similar to the setup we had in the last series. But I also don't like making a station be two-way accessible on both ends, since it can lead to conflicts. Although, now that I think about it, when a train arrives at a distribution office, they put themselves in storage, so they wouldn't really be able to block each other. I'll think about it a little, and see if this can still work or not. I think if we add a simple station crossing before the four-way split at the entrance, then I think we can make this work. If you remember from that old signal video, there is a very small chance that trains can block each other in a two-way system, if all platforms are accessible from both directions. This happens if two trains arrive from opposite directions at the same time, and enter their junction blocks simultaneously, which can happen if the target platform is not occupied. But as I've said, this shouldn't be a problem here, since trains will despawn once they return home, so there should never be a platform occupied for more than a couple seconds. I also wanted to add a couple small pieces of tracks after end stations, so we have buffers at the end of the line, instead of the tracks just suddenly stopping at the other end of the station. Well, this one will have to be one-sided, there is no way to connect the second platform on that one. This is purely aesthetic, by the way. It serves no other purpose than looks. Checking back at the border, the traffic does seem a lot calmer than it was earlier in the episode. Redirecting all those trucks really made a difference. Once all these service buildings are done, we will get started on the apartments too. No point building them until the area is ready. Well, I think this is it for today. After the chaos of the last couple episodes, it was kind of nice to have a more relaxed video. And it's really nice to finally have these EDK 300 track layers running around, even though they did manage to eat up all the gravel we had stored away for them. If the deliveries cannot keep up with them once things settle down, then we will need to increase the throughput, and build more distribution offices to keep the RCO as full as possible. We really need these guys to run at full capacity all the time, so we can start using trains as soon as possible. That is pretty much the main focus for the next couple episodes. As soon as we reach the point of having trains running around on a regular basis, then I will be safe in the knowledge that we can move on. This is pretty much the key to every single game about logistics. Focus on one area, make sure it works as intended, and once it does, move on to something else. Don't try to create one big machine that works well. Create a lot of small ones that end up working together. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.